Hey guys, what's up? Today we're talking about this guy right here. This is a RavenCrest Tactical Knife. I believe, if I'm saying this right, this is the Tonto Bravo Tactical out the front knife. So we're going to talk about this real quick. We're actually going to take this guy apart and clean it because it's about time this guy had been cleaned. We're just going to talk about it, right? And give my experiences with this knife. Let's get into it. Okay, so kind of like we do in some of our suppressor videos, I kind of like how that flow works. I'm going to go over some specs off of their website. I'll throw those up here on the screen. For any of those people that really want to know specs, all this dadgum cottonwood in the air, I'm telling you what, I sound like death right now, just the bowling ball in my face. So I apologize about that straight up. Let's go over details, let's go over some specs, and then I'll start to talk and word vomit information to you. So let's get into it. Okay, so interrupt the video real quick. We are giving away one of these knives. Thankfully, I think that's the right word. Yeah, thankfully, RavenCrest Tactical, they were kind enough to send us one of these knives to give away. I contacted them and said, we're doing this video, and I wanted to give away one of the knives. They just sent one of these things out. No strings attached. So, this is the basic model that I have, right, as far as the outside goes. The inside, you have a blade that looks like so. It is a fully serrated on one side and fully sharp on the other side. Very sharp knife. So anyway, that's the knife we're going to give away. The way that we're going to do this is very simple. I tried to be very straightforward and simple about this so it doesn't drag on, because this is going to get given away relatively quickly, I do believe. I'm going to put a word somewhere. I'll annotate it somewhere in this video, okay? Get that word. Go over to my Instagram page, and on one of my posts, try to do a recent one if you can, but on one of my posts, comment that word, okay? It's gonna be very simple. We'll give it a day or two. Once you've gotten enough to satisfy comments, then we will pick one of those comments. We will contact you on Instagram through the messenger system thing to get your shipping information if you really want to do this. Obviously, you've got to be old enough to have a knife, and obviously we can't ship these things to certain states that do not allow you to have these knives, so make sure you're within those parameters before you go ahead and do that. But that's what we're going to do. Find the secret word, go to Instagram, comment that word somewhere on my page, and we will get a hold of the winner relatively quickly, I do believe, a day or two. All right, that's it. Let's get back to the video. Appreciate you guys, and let's do it. All right, so going off their website, I don't have a screenshot of this, but I'll just tell you, this is the Cerakoted, the Titan Bravo Tactical out the front knife matte black, right? This guy is matte black, and before we get into other specs, this guy had like a rubberized-ish coating on it. It wasn't straight Cerakote. It was kind of a rubbery, velvety kind of a feel to it. As you can tell, that has worn off, and I think I have had this knife for 4 or 5 years. I got it as a gift. I did not buy it. I didn't get it from them. Some good buddies of mine gave this to me for my birthday a long time ago. It feels weird, a long time ago, 4 or 5 years ago. Dadgum. I can't remember if it was 2018, 2019, but whatever it was, I have used, you should be able to tell, I've used this thing a lot. And even if RavenCrest wanted to like recoat this thing, I don't want it. I like the used feel look of this, and I'm shocked. I am shocked, now I'm going to eat my words, that I haven't lost this guy. Because usually when I have something for that long, I don't, because it gets lost. But I'll show some close-up pictures of this and the wear on it in a little bit. But before that, let's go over these specs. All right, so this is, I do believe, the drop point serrated version. They got a couple different versions of blades you can get. But the total length, as advertised, is 9 inches. The blade length is 3.5 inches. Blade thickness is 0.11 inch. Blade width is 1.1 inch. Blade material is 440C stainless steel. The handle, that's a new word. The handle is zinc alloy that's been Cerakoted. Hardness is 75 HRC. Gross weight is 8.11 ounces, and total weight is 12.34 ounces. 12.34. I like when numbers line up like that. Anyway, that's just some data for you from the internet, from their website, so hopefully that answers some questions that some people might have. I know some places have restrictions on blade length, and I do believe they have some specific lengths of blade and overall size for certain places that don't allow you to have a knife blade. I don't know. I don't live in those states, so I don't really pay much attention to those, but I do believe they have some for those specific states. So let's talk about this guy real quick. I'm going to throw up some pictures and just kind of let you see how this thing looks. I have used and abused this knife ever since I got it. Not because I paid for it. Was I harsh on it? I'm harsh on most of my things anyway, but I really just wanted to put this guy through its paces. And for my personal testimony on this knife, it has worked exceptionally well. And there's a caveat in there, right? Not for me, but I personally know several people who have had some of these knives. I don't think they had this specific model. I think they had some different models that they had some issues and things with that I believe they got those issues taken care of and dealt with. But I have not had any problems. I have not had to send this guy in to get fixed. I have not done anything like that. This guy continues to work. Now, the reason I'm making this video today, a couple different reasons. I haven't made a follow-up video on this. I think I've talked about this in some other videos. We actually gave some of these away back a while back ago when we hit our like 1,000 subscriber deal. Maybe we'll be able to work out another thing and give away another knife. We'll see. Hands crossed. Fingers crossed. Yeah, that's the saying. But also, I'm going to take this guy apart and clean it and kind of show you the workings of this guy, because since I do use this, right? This is my everyday carry. We've gone fishing the last couple weekends, and we've gotten a good amount of salmon, and I've used this guy to be gutting and cleaning out salmon, right? Not filleting and stuff. It's not a fillet knife, but gutting out in the middle of like salt water and just all that garbage and seagull poop and slime and everything else that's out there. And this guy is still going in and out, even with whatever kind of slime gets retracted back up in here. I believe, and don't quote me on this, I believe I used this guy to help gut out a deer, and this would have been several years ago. Whether I did it with that one or not, I'm not sure, but I have done some small game, rabbits and grouse and things like that, where I have used this guy to gut and do all that kind of stuff with the little critters. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to change the camera angle. We're going to look down on top, and I'm going to take this guy apart, show you how I clean it, kind of show you the working mechanisms of like popping the hood on something. I can't think of any clever cliches to say, so let's just go up top. Okay, so here we go. This is a knife we have right here. The only branding that I see that's still kind of left on here is on the clip, the RavenCrest Tactical. There's no model number or anything on here. On the bottom here, you're going to see we have I can't count, I'm homeschooled, 6 different screws, and I believe this tool does not come with anything. This doesn't come with any takedown tools or anything, but I believe this is a T6 Torx bit. So we're going to go ahead and take this guy apart. All right, so the screws are out. I'm still holding it in place because I don't want everything to come popping out. Should have done this part first. You got this glass breaker on the back that actually holds in your clip. Stick some kind of a pin or something in this portion, in one of these holes, and you can kind of break it loose. Hopefully it'll break loose. It's got Loctite on it, I know that. So we're gonna break this guy loose, unscrew it, and then we should be able to take the whole thing apart. All right, so here we go. Here is our glass breaker on the back, and you can see we have our clip, and this is reversible. You can tell it's always been on this side because this part's not wore off. This side, it's never really been over here, and everything's wore off. So this guy comes off, but he is reversible. So now we're gonna pop everything off and kind of see what it looks like on the inside down in here. All right, so here we go. This is what our innards look like. We got our button right here. This is a solid piece. There's no other weird stuff in here. It's actually not near as dirty as I thought it was going to be. And this is our opening and closing mechanism. Take special note of how everything is orientated. All right, set this guy to the side. And here is the blade inside. As you can see, we have this little lever right here. And we have this little lever right here. These are kind of your safeties, right? The blade will not come forward unless you depress the little safety guard right there. So I can't remember which one's which one. I think if we depress this one, we should be able to slide out the knife. And I think it catches, maybe it doesn't, no it doesn't, okay. This guy right here clips down so the knife will not go back in, right? But we can pull him all the way back out, all right? So, all right, so this little safety right here keeps the blade locked back here until you're ready to go forward. And then this little safety right here keeps the blade locked out until you're ready to go backwards. So the blade's out. I'm not going to take these guys out, and I wouldn't recommend trying to pull them out. I'm just not going to mess with that, but I think that's all the little spring pieces and stuff that you really need to worry about this. So those are our 2 half shells, and this is our blade right here. This is the opening and closing mechanism, all right? We got a big spring, we got 2 pieces, 2 like claw-looking pieces, and this big weird main structure piece. You can pop it all apart, just careful, don't let things go flying. And if you take special note, These are not the same kind. These are not the same size. I'm gonna set this down so my big fingers get out of the way. All right, hopefully you can see here. This has more of an angle right here and has a longer claw. I'll call it a claw. Whereas this guy here has, I don't think it's the same angle, but it's definitely a shorter claw. You're gonna need to know that when we go to put this guy back together. So we're gonna set this guy to the side. Everything's pretty much set to the side. I'm gonna go ahead and spray it all down a little bit with some cleaner because we need to get some of this fish gut juice and dried up salt water out of here, and I'll show you how I clean it real quick. All right, I don't really use any kind of special cleaner. This is just breakthrough cleaner. This is for my guns, so I have this stuff out here in the shop, so I'm just gonna use it just to help break everything down. I don't think it's gonna harm anything, never has before. And on that note of cleaning it before, I think I've only done this like 4 times in like the 4 or 5 years that I've had this. I don't clean it all that often, honestly, I really don't, unless, you know, at the end of like a hunting season or something, or fishing season, when I've actually used this guy, that's when I'll go ahead and clean it, because, you know, sometimes I do cut food with this, and I don't need old fish guts, you know, getting all mixed up in my food. Not really something that I like to do. So just to scrub everything, kind of break it up, something like that. Again, I don't really want to bust loose these little little locking tabs, so we'll just kind of scrub around them. We'll scrub on them. If they pop out, they pop out, no big deal. But I really just want to bust loose anything in here that could potentially be gross and disgusting. And honestly, if you really wanted to, at this point, I would pop these guys out, and these big main pieces, you probably throw them in your dishwasher. I mean, if you're the kind of guy that likes to cut apples with your knife and stuff, that might be something you might want to look at doing. Get those guys done. This guy is nice and easy to clean. I don't know if it's just stainless steel, if it's coated with nickel, or what exactly it is, but he cleans up very easy. And this is one piece that you want to be pretty slick. You don't want a bunch of grime built up on that. All right, we get our little button, or lever, selector, I don't know what it's called. Again, just kind of scrub that guy off. Little bit of rust right here, little bit of rust right here on the spring. So we'll just kind of scrub on that just a little bit, help break up some of that buildup just a little bit. After 4 or 5 years, if that's the worst that we got, I'm not really worried about this. All right. Tons of belly button lint and everything that always gets caught up in here. And I'll wash this thing out sometimes, honestly. I mean, really, really hot water and soap. And if you get it hot enough, you know, and you dry it out and you blow it out, you don't even have to take the thing apart, because if you get it hot enough, everything just kind of evaporates. And it is not like there's a bunch of plastic parts in here that I'm having to worry about. It's just metal, so you can heat it up pretty hot. You can even boil it, really, if you wanted to. That'd be one thing to do. One thing to note is you would want to watch these screws. I had one. I would almost consider it a miracle. When we first moved up here to Alaska, I had one of these screws fall out. And I only noticed it, I don't even know why I noticed it. I was just looking at my knife and I was like, crap, one of my screws fell out. So I would consider it a miracle, because about a month after I found that the screw was gone, I found the screw sitting on the garage floor. So anyway, I never had to call and get another one. And you have 6 of them, so if one of them falls out and gets lost, well, I didn't have a problem with the knife falling apart. It just, I just noticed that the screw was gone. All right, so now that everything's scrubbed up, I'm gonna wipe it all down with a paper towel. All right, give everything a little scrub. There's the logo. RCT 03 Bravo. There you go. So there is stuff on there. It's just corroded and had a bunch of junk on it. Couldn't really read it. All right, got an air compressor to blow everything out. Again, paying special attention to those little tracks. Trying to blow everything off my table. All right, we also want to make sure we do not blow these screws on the ground. Goodness gravy, put those guys away. We want to make sure we get this spring nice and dry. All right, so here's a spot that I missed. On the top side where the screws go down, there's some Loctite kind of gunked up in there. I'm gonna bust that loose a little bit more, so we get a nice solid seat when we go to mount. I'm talking about gun stuff. When we go to screw everything back together. All right, so that's sufficient for me. That makes me happy as far as how that turned out. All right, so make sure we got everything. We got our blade, we got our 2 sides, we got our selector or lever, whatever you want to call it. The clip and the retaining piece, our spring, our little hoochie-mapucker thing, and 6 screws. Make sure we keep those guys right here. Okay, so now to put everything back together, it is not that hard. It's really not, but you got to make sure you do it the right way. All right, we're going to put the blade back in. Before we put the blade back in, I'm going to take a little bit of oil, and I'm going to put that at the beginning of the track, right? And I don't care what kind of oil you use. You just need a little bit. You don't need to go crazy because too much oil will attract a bunch of dirt and crud, and you don't need that. All right, so this area right here, where you can see where the selector, this piece is going to ride, right? That's the top. So it's going to go like this. You don't put the blade up. You put, or at least for this style of blade, the sharp edge goes down. So we're going to start this guy in the track. All right, and this is where you're going to have to push up this little lever. Now the blade should slide back, all right? Now, you actually don't want it all the way back. Push it forward a little bit. Just a little bit, something like that. All right, so set this guy to the side. Now we get this weird little guy, okay? So this weird little guy, we have this tooth-looking piece here, the square. I guess this looks more like a tooth. The square piece, it's gonna ride like this. It's gonna move back and forth like this. You see how this little portion, this angle portion, defeats that little mechanism there? See how it goes forward, right? So this is the orientation you're going to need this, okay? Now, remember how we had this spring with a long piece and a short piece. Very importante, very important. Long piece goes in the back. Short piece goes in the front. If you somehow switch that up and somehow put the knife back together, it's not going to operate. It's going to be all locked up, all right? So this is going to be under tension, so you're going to have to be a little bit careful. But you're going to place that short piece on the front where you have that tooth, and you're going to have to extend or stretch that spring, however you want to call it, until, get it in here, my big fat finger's in the way, sorry you can't see, get it in there, come on, there you go, until it's in there like this, all right? Kind of hold it in the middle a little bit. You don't want the spring popping out. It shouldn't pop out, it shouldn't, but it can, all right? So see how you have the big hook in the back, very small one in the front. Don't reverse those, it won't work right. All right, so now we should be able to place that big hook on this cutout portion right here. That's what's gonna kind of throw the blade forward, all right? And that's why we went ahead and took the knife out of the locked position. Now it's kind of free floating in the middle. That just takes the tension off things, all right? So now we're gonna go ahead, put a little bit, again, a little bit of oil in that track. Big head's probably in the way, sorry. Little bit of oil in the track on one side, little bit of oil in the track on the other side. Just a little bit, that might have even been too much. You don't need much, right? Because again, it's going to attract a bunch of oil, or not oil, but a bunch of lint. And that little hook is going to correspond with this little groove right here. All right, and this is where you need about 10 little bitty fingers. And my finger, I don't have 10, and my fingers are big, so it's a little bit hard sometimes. But we're going to kind of finagle everything in there, work it around until everything should pretty much click into place, and that blade should be flopping around, okay? The blade should be flopping around, and that's okay. That's what it's supposed to do. It keeps that tension off, okay? But everything's in there just like that. So now what we're going to do, since we've blown everything out, we're going to get our Torx driver, and we're going to put just a dab. Don't be like Matt and put a gallon. Just a little drop on each one of these screws when we put them in. And we're not going to go crazy tightening them down. I do not believe there's a specific torque spec that they advertise on these. But with a little bit of Loctite and a nice, just a little, I don't know, you use common sense. You don't want to torque these guys out and strip the screws, right? You don't want to do that. So use common sense and get them in there just good and tight, as our wonderful German friends would say. All right. All right, a major thing you want to make sure you don't do is cross thread and get stuff messed up. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this down. Again, nice and snug. Don't go crazy. With that little bit of Loctite in there, it's not like this thing's vibrating all the time. It's not like it's on a gun, like an optic or something. You know, you don't need extreme torque pressures and stuff. Just nice and snug. You'll know it. All right. Same thing with the back here. We're going to make sure we put our clip back on the correct way. Right? You could swap it around if you wanted to, just depending on which pocket you carry it in, how you like to orientate it. This is how I like to do it. And I'll put a little bit of Loctite on this guy. Maybe a little bit more because it has a little bit I don't know, it holds the clip in. The clip is always coming in and out of pants and stuff, so it moves a little bit more. All right, and then we're just gonna tighten it down. If you got a skinny screwdriver, you can stick that guy through. Something like that, something like that. And again, nice and tight, nice and snug. And I'm gonna call that good. And then you're gonna know that it works right. You're like, well, I put it together and now it just doesn't work anymore, okay? This is the beauty of the system. You pull the knife forward, you kind of pull it all the way out, and now it's locked open. It should, when I pull this little lever back, just snap back in really nice and easy. Just like that, snap right out. Just nice and easy like that. All right, guys, so there you go. That is the RavenCrest Tactical out the front knife. I believe it's their Bravo edition, their Bravo model. I personally really like this knife, all right? There's folks out there, even myself, before I got one, I always looked at these knives as relatively stupid, gimmicky, and impractical. After having one for like 4 to 5 years, you can obviously tell by the wear on this guy that I use it all the time. It's just, for me, extremely convenient, whether it be for opening boxes or cutting string or gutting fish or whatever it might be. It's extremely convenient to be able to use with one hand the knife, open it up, do whatever you need to do with it, open boxes, letters, mails, packages, whatever it might be, close the knife up and put it back in your pocket. Some knives, a lot of people, most people that have knives, you can fiddle-faddle with your knife and you can manipulate it with one hand relatively simply. But a lot of times there's locking mechanisms, you gotta move stuff around. This guy is very simple and easy to use. And for me, in my experience, if you keep it clean and once every year bust out the stinking air hose and blast out your belly button gunk and your pocket lint and everything else that built up in here, fish guts and, you know, squirrel entrails, get that stuff cleaned out, put a little bit of oil on it. For me, this guy has worked, right? How many of you guys have actually had these knives? That's what I would like to know. How many of you guys actually have knives, whether it be from RavenCrest Tactical or another company that makes similar knives like this? How many of you guys actually have one that you are like me to where you thought these were gimmicky until you actually got one? And then you're like, wow, I'm a believer now. That's me. That's me, and I'd like to hear that from you guys. And also, how many of you guys have ever had problems with these knives? Because sometimes we have problems and we gripe about it to our friends, but there might be an easy solution if you get outside of your friend zone of friends, however it is. Other people might be able to help you out. You might just have a dirty knife. Or, in some cases, maybe that little clip on the inside of the spring, maybe it was messed up and it was installed backwards. Maybe you did it, maybe they did it at the factory, they didn't catch it. If that's the case, the knife would only open a little bit, and it's going to be like locked in there. You're not going to be able to pull it out, you're not going to be able to close it, and it's as simple as taking the knife apart, cleaning it, and putting it back together properly. That might be all you need to do. So anyway, this is my experience with my knife. I absolutely love it. I'm going to continue carrying it until I lose it, because in my experience with it, it's probably going to get lost before it actually breaks. The only thing on here that has actually broken, all right, we'll say two things. The finish is worn off, which personally, I don't care. I think it's honest wear, and so I don't mind it. Also, I'll take a close-up picture of it. On the tip of the blade, this finally has a little chip in it. And I have used this guy as a pry bar. I've used this guy to split wood, right? Where I actually use this to split wood. I smack on this with a rock or with another branch or something to split wood. I have used the blade of this knife for things that blades of knives are not meant to be used for. And if that's the only thing, is a little chip that could relatively easy be ground down and sharpened and you'd never even know it, then yeah, this is well worth the money. For like $100 for these knives, I'm happy with that. So anyway, guys, that is all I have to say about this. I haven't made any real videos of this because it's just one of those things that it just continues to be boringly reliable for me. And this is all I can say for me. Other people may have had problems, but I have found it to be exceptionally I'm going in the wrong direction there. I have found it to work exceptionally well. All right, that's it. You guys be good to be safe. I appreciate you guys hanging around and subscribing and watching the videos. It really is helpful. It's helpful when you watch the videos. It's more helpful when you watch the videos because it kicks the algorithm up when you guys interact and talk about stuff. Even if you talk about something besides the video, it helps the algorithm push the video out to more people and more people can see the stuff. All right, but that's it. I'm going to shut up. Y'all be good to be safe. Appreciate you guys, and hopefully we'll catch you in the next video. See ya.